Oh yes, you're gonna get it. Yes, naughty little boys. Yes. 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 Oh, please, don't hurt me. Right? You little shoot an ass. You little die. Remember, not the flame.
In 2006, Martin Webster hit the headlines because of this video. He's filming his fellow British soldiers beating Iraqi youths during the siege of Al-Amara.
And then you hit the headlines in 2006 for an incident that actually happened in 2004, I believe, where you filmed a group of your fellow soldiers essentially abusing Iraqi prisoners.
And, you know, that is what it is on the camera. It's very distasteful, people find it hard, but what people need to understand is that put through those conditions, lack of sleep, lack of ammunition, lack of training, and being in a hostile environment for that long, that's what you hear on the camera is my voice. And I find it very hard to deal with when I listen to it. However, there's a lot of underlying factors that led up to the way I acted. So, in a way, Voices of War is a way of me explaining, trying to explain or putting war into context that it's very difficult. It's a difficult environment to operate in.
And did you expect the reaction that that video clip got when it eventually came out?
Yeah, it's a difficult clip it's a difficult subject to explain because, you know, it destroyed my life. You know, that clip destroyed no matter what good I'd done through my whole army career, because for that, you know, how many seconds that is, that clip, you know, it's my life on spotlight, and I was thrusted into media with no form of training or backing, and I was like, well, you know, what it should have happened was it should have been dealt with in-house. Yeah, you know, we've done things wrong, but we didn't just do things wrong, the government did things wrong. You know, the army didn't handle it particularly very well. And it should have been dealt with in-house. Charges could have been brought, but not by throwing those soldiers into the spotlight like the government did, because I think what they were trying to do was cause a smokescreen, a deflection from their incompetence and their lack of planning for the war.
And you say you filmed the whole tour. What was the motivation behind filming like that?
Well, all of a sudden, in 2004, video cameras have become widely available, and I don't think the government had cottoned on to the fact that the public were going to see how horrific war is. You know, we're asked to do some pretty appalling things. And that's just the underlying factor at the end of the day, is that we are asked as infantry soldiers to go in. And the majority of wars that you fight, you're fighting kids. People find that very hard. The West Side Boys were mainly children. You know, when we was in Sierra Leone, you're fighting children. That's the trouble. That's the horrible factor of war.
And following that incident, you left the army. And what happened afterwards? You've made into a film, A Diary of a Disgraced Soldier. Tell me about the period in your life that the film covers.
The film is called Diary of a Disgraced Soldier. I wasn't happy with the name of the film because it's labelling myself, and I wasn't a disgraced soldier. I came out and I served with flying colours, and all of my reports show that I was an outstanding soldier. I was picked to train recruits in ATR Winchester because I was one of the best in my regiment. So the government have got a lot to answer for. The underlying message at the moment of Afghanistan is we're there for the people, so that the people can have democracy. And I'm seeing the same sort of images as what's happening in Iraq with Afghanistan.
If every soldier comes home and they just say that they're glad to be home, then no one's going to know the truth about what's going on in Iraq.
Flags are bits of colored cloth that governments use first to shrink wrap people's brains and then as ceremonial shrouds to bury the dead.
The U.S. military as an institution is very corrupt and is built upon spreading death. To me, the idea of having a force like the U.S. Army participating in nation building is just asinine. I mean, we're nation destroyers. That's what we're trained to do.
We were all congratulated after we had our first kills. My company commander personally congratulated me. This is the same individual who has stated that whoever gets their first kill by stabbing them to death will get a 4-day pass when we return from Iraq.
4 soldiers walked through the trees and approached this house. Here, according to specialist James Barker's statement, he and another soldier took it in turns to rape the 14-year-old girl. In another room, the girl's parents and 5-year-old sister were shot dead. Before they left, they poured kerosene over the girl's body and set it alight. They returned to their checkpoint, and Barker said he grilled some chicken wings.
4 years ago, at the age of 19, Ms. Jamie Lee Jones signed a contract to become an employee of KBR, then a Halliburton subsidiary. Ms. Jones arrived in Iraq in July of 2005 and was housed in barracks with 400 men and only a few women. 4 days after her arrival, Ms. Jones was drugged and gang raped. After Ms. Jones reported the rape to her supervisors, she was locked in a shipping container with an armed guard and prohibited any contact with the outside world. They locked her in a container.
According to the Center for Defense Information, 51% of your federal income taxes go specifically to military spending, not healthcare or education, but war.
So cute, little puppy.
Why was her child, one of an increasing number born with deformities since the war, like this? Massive growth which was rapidly spreading across the little girl's face. Case after case of differing deformities without any real explanation, except their parents' suspicions that the deformities were caused by chemicals such as white phosphorus used by the Americans during the war.
A Geiger counter will give a reading of between 5 and 15 pulses per minute in a typical environment. This depleted uranium round will trigger 10,000 pulses in about 40 seconds. This type of ammunition is radioactive because it is made of nuclear waste referred to as uranium-238 or depleted uranium. This material is left over from the processing of uranium-234 used for atomic bombs and uranium-235 used in nuclear power plants. Uranium-238 remains radioactive for 4.5 billion years, and its toxicity reveals itself as soon as particles are inhaled or ingested. Cancer and birth defects are the most common side effects.
They don't hate us because of our freedoms. They hate us because every day we are funding and committing crimes against humanity.